What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am, and today I have a story time for you guys I've been wanting to tell for a while, but I just wanted to make sure I could do it justice, you know? And as you guys can tell, today's story time is a little bit longer than normal because I finally think I've done it. So, before we get into it, I'm going to be telling you guys the story of a guy I worked with who literally thought he was a Power Ranger, but before we could get into it, if you guys could just press the like button in honor of this story, I would really appreciate it. And, yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so most of you guys that are loyal subscribers to the channel know at this point that, I used to work at a grocery store. I've told a lot of stories about it, but this one in particular I haven't yet. At the grocery store, there was this department of guys that, worked behind the milk aisle that you guys see. I'm gonna call them the dairy guys for the rest of the video, working in the derriere of the store, the unsung heroes of the refrigerator, the thin, icy line. No matter what you call them, the one thing that tended to be true about this dairy team for whatever reason is that they all tended to be a little bit bizarre. They didn't really have to interact with the other workers too much, and so because of that, they kind of lived in their own world. Like, if somebody was a little weird, we would put them back there. And there was one particular dairy guy who was a little bit weirder than everybody else, though, and he was this 40-year-old ginger man with, a giant beard named Nathan. Now, Nathan was, by his looks, this big dude, almost looked like a biker, a big portly man. He looked very tough, looked like a very tough guy. And, one of his most distinctive features was, this massive beard. And most of the store was horrified of him because he just looked insanely scary. But the dairy guys loved him and were always talking about how funny he could be, even though he was annoying. It seemed like one of those situations where working with him could be super frustrating, but it was also entertaining. And, I was pretty cool with most of the people at the store because at the time, for a while, I was just kind of floating from department to department, helping whoever was shorthanded that day. And every time I would come into the store and see that I was on dairy duty, I would, check to see if I was with Nathan, because every time we were with him, it would be entertaining. And that's not necessarily a good thing. He was primarily entertaining because he would, get really mad and made no sense. Because the one thing that it seemed like no one except for the people on the dairy team really knew about Nathan was that for some reason, he thought that he was a Power Ranger. That's why he was so fun to work with. And when I say that, I know most of you are thinking that, he was just a massive fan and he would talk about it sometimes. Maybe he had a sticker on the back of his car or something. And trust me, that would be way more normal compared to what was actually happening. But this grown 40-year-old man genuinely thought that he was a member of the superpower team, or the superhero team, the Power Rangers, And I figured this out pretty quickly my first day working with the dairy guys because I was actually replacing Nathan that day. And the whole day they kept making fun of him because he had taken off work and told everybody that he had official Power Ranger duties to attend to, which is why he couldn't come in. And honestly, when they were first saying it, I thought that they were kidding, but as it went on through the day, I kind of was pressing them for more information. And what I found out wasn't short of one of the greatest things I'd ever heard. This was my first time filling in personally, but they told me that basically once a week he would call in and basically say he couldn't come in and someone needed to cover his shift. And, all he would say as to why was that he had some Power Ranger duties. And obviously everyone in the dairy department is super annoyed with this because, it wouldn't be a big deal if he had asked ahead for time off or requested it ahead of schedule, but when he's literally calling 10 minutes before he comes in and saying he can't come in because he has Power Ranger work, it's pretty annoying, And I honestly thought that they were messing with me because I was like, there's no way that this 40-year-old man is looking at his coworkers and saying that he couldn't come in yesterday because he had Power Ranger work. And so I kind of was asking more questions, and they told me that they had confronted him about it before just to see what he would say about it, and he had mentioned that, Power Ranger work isn't scheduled, so whenever he gets beeped, he just needs to go. And I'm stupefied, bro. They can tell by the look on my face, I just don't believe it. So they keep telling me stories, showing me screenshots, showing me videos of him talking about being a Power Ranger, telling them that, yesterday when I called out of work, I actually went and fought supervillains. And I am not believing any of this, dude. I kind of play along. I'm hoping that it's just trolling me or something. And as the day comes to an end, I'm kind of disappointed because it was being pretty funny. And I'm also disappointed because I don't know if I'm ever going to get to work with Nathan. I didn't really work in the dairy department super often. But the idea of like seeing this dude who thought he was a Power Ranger just entertained my mind. So I go home, and for some reason I just can't stop thinking about this, elderly large ginger man thinking he's a Power Ranger. So I did something that's a little bit weird, but my curiosity got the better of me. And I go and I look him up on Facebook. I'm trying to find him. I'm not gonna lie, it takes me a while because his name was like Nathan and then just the most generic last name ever. So there's like a lot of dudes with the same name, and his last name was also pretty Scottish, so they're also all ginger, so like I'm just having a hard time finding him. But I finally find him, and I start to go through his profile to figure out what's going on, and I'm not kidding when I say that every post is him talking about how hard life is as a Power Ranger and how he's always saving people. But as I'm scrolling through it, dude, I see the cream of the crop. Now, as I said, Nathan was a larger ginger man, and there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you just gotta have a little bit of self-awareness, and if you've ever seen the Power Rangers, they wear these, like, super skin-tight suits and helmets, and that's their uniform. It's actually the least effective armor to have ever been made. Like, it doesn't look like it would protect you from a paper airplane crash, let alone the type of combat that Nathan is telling these dudes that he's getting into once a week, Anyways, on Nathan's Facebook is a picture of him wearing the skin-tight Power Ranger suit, but on top of that is this Power Ranger helmet, and it almost looks like he's had it for just too long, and it's 2 sizes too small, because it has, like, the visor, and in the visor, you can see his face, like, smushed up against the visor. I'm not saying, like, it was like he just had it for too long. It was almost as if he had bought the costume when he was like 17 and then just never got a different one. The real power was that it was somehow still working. Anyways, there's this like photo shoot of him in his costume doing poses, parkour, all that stuff, and the caption is something about how he had this Power Ranger since he had first been recruited, and it still fits like a glove, which is not the term I would have used, but hey, I guess that's why I didn't write it. But one thing that really confuses me about this is this dude was way older than the Power Rangers. Like, I watched the Power Rangers growing up. I was born in 99, so late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of people were into them. My older cousins were, my younger brother was, but like that's the prime demographic, I feel. This dude was already like 26, 27 years old when they even came out, which means at some point, this grown man was just watching Power Rangers and was like, oh my god, this is incredible. And, which is messed up. I mean, this is the nicest way to Power Rangers. They don't hold up well. Like, if you ever watched Power Rangers as a kid, I'm telling you now, honestly, don't go rewatch it. You're just gonna be disappointed. But the idea of a grown person being able to watch that and dedicate their life to it kind of scares me. I made the mistake of rewatching it a bit ago, and my god, dude, there were literally better actors in Darman videos. Like, when you're little, it's awesome. It's the coolest show ever, but if somebody else watches it and dedicates their life to it, there's something wrong. Anyways, I'm now sitting here with all this information, and my desire to go work in the dairy section of the store is even stronger, dude. I'm like, I don't even want to go to school. Go put me in the dairy section. I need to just hear this. I really felt like I just needed to meet Nathan at this point, hear his story, understand what it was like to talk to him. I'm just going to work, crossing my fingers I'm going to get assigned to that area. And finally, I walk in one day, and I'm really hyped because on the schedule, I see Nathan's name and my name, and I basically sprint to the back of the store because I'm just like, let's get this party started. It's time to go. I want to meet a Power Ranger. So I get into the back room, and everybody's already there, including Nathan, and he's the only one that I haven't met from this crew at this point because I worked with them before. So I introduce myself, and you would think that he wouldn't lead with the fact that he's a Power Ranger. You kind of want to keep that on the low. But I introduce myself, and he looks me in the eyes and just says, "I'm the Blue Ranger. Nice to meet you." And as soon as he does that, I kind of look at everybody else, and they kind of like look at me wide-eyed with the whole, I told you we weren't crazy, and he's actually like this. Obviously, I had known at this point after my research on Facebook, but these dudes were probably like so vindicated telling these stories about this Nathan guy, and nobody believes you because it's just like, there's no way you work with a dude who thinks he's a Power Ranger. And you would think, that as a Power Ranger, working with the Power Ranger should be great. He should be able to lift as much as everybody else, like 25 times. He should be super helpful, super nice. But if this guy was a Power Ranger, then the saying, like, don't meet your heroes is definitely true, dude. We start working, like actually getting work, and right away everybody's frustrated because this Nathan dude just vanishes. Like, I swear he walked out of the fridge and into the Power Ranger lair. I could not find this guy anywhere. And of course, like right when he disappears is right when a giant delivery came and we have to be lifting all these boxes to and from where the truck is into the fridge, just like going back and forth. It's not fun, but it's just very convenient that he disappears right then. And it was then that I realized that, he's just not the type of Power Ranger to help. He's just the type of Power Ranger to watch and let everybody else do the heavy lifting, He's just here to help us get our workout. He doesn't need the workout because he's a Power Ranger already. Obviously, he's already jacked. It's up to us to continue to get stronger without him. Anyways, almost like clockwork, as soon as we finish unloading the truck, he moseys over, and in his hand, he has like a piece of sample sushi from the front of the store. So he had obviously, while we were unloading this truck, like gone, walked around the store, talked to some people, got some sushi. He had just been having a great time while we were all back here working. And as he's eating his sushi, it's like in his mouth, there's food in his mouth. He's like, yeah, I would have helped, but I hurt my back on this Power Ranger mission last night, but I'm really proud of your guys' hard work, and you should feel good that a Power Ranger is proud of you. Like, oh, thanks, man, that's cool and all, but I really don't care if a Power Ranger is proud of me at this point, considering I just had to do a bunch of work that would have been way easier if you helped me, You're a random stranger. You being proud of me means literally nothing. I didn't know for sure, but I thought it was obvious to everybody that basically he just kind of disappeared whenever the order showed up so that way he didn't have to do any work, And I just figured out that that was pretty common because everybody else was just like, yeah, whatever, just help now. Like they didn't act like it was crazy abnormal for him to be doing that. And for the rest of that, the first day is a mix of him literally running away from any hard work to get done. Like, sure, the first truck that came, he had vanished calmly. But there was literally one time when this, yogurt had come in and we had to, like, unload it into the display. And he literally ran out of the fridge saying it was his lunch break, even though he had only gotten there, like, an hour ago. And I kind of was understanding why everybody had seemed so annoyed with him the first day because it just seemed like he avoided doing any work. Like, it wasn't like he was just avoiding work and not talking either. It's one thing if you're slacking and you just stay out of everybody's way, you're really grateful that they're doing all the heavy lifting. But on top of avoiding doing work with us, he would always just be bringing up like his non-existent Power Ranger experience as a reason he should be in charge and like was better than us, So he comes back from lunch when we were doing the yogurt, and I guess whatever, he didn't like the way we had done the yogurt. So he comes in yelling at us about how we had basically ruined the store, and the Power Rangers would have never put yogurt out like that. Yeah, you're right that the Power Rangers probably would have never put out yogurt like that because they don't exist, bro. They're not real. Like, this was literally what he would do. If you're gonna slack, then slack and shut up. You don't get to slack and then also complain about all the hard work that everybody else is doing. And if the Power Rangers were real, they probably wouldn't be stocking yogurt. That's probably it too. You want to know why we didn't stock yogurt the way Power Rangers would? Because they've never done that. Why would they be doing that? They have powers. People with real superpowers have better stuff to do. If I had been a superpower at 16, I wouldn't have been in the grocery store, that's for sure. I would have been like jumping buildings or something. And nobody cares how Power Rangers would have done it. And if you wanted it done a specific way, like the Power Ranger way, then maybe you shouldn't have ran away while we were doing it. Like you call me crazy, you just lose the right to complain about how it's done if you did everything in your power to have nothing to do with it. Like if you tell the people running the group project, you don't care, and then you get an F. Okay, that just is what it is. It's your fault, He did the deadbeat dad equivalent of leaving for 18 years and then coming back and complaining about how the kid turns out. Like, it would have been better if you helped Mr. Power Ranger. And even beyond that, he would also just challenge people in these super weird ways. Like, he would just talk mad crap and then back out, citing the Power Ranger code. And these are just some of the weird things I witnessed him doing. There was this younger dude named Gerald who worked in the dairy department, and he was a bigger guy. His biceps were about the size of this dude's helmet, which was 2 sizes too small. And because he was a bigger guy, he would carry 2 boxes of stuff at once, like instead of 1. And you weren't supposed to do that, but he literally was just strong enough where it wasn't that big of a deal. They weren't light boxes, they were large, and it was impressive seeing him carry it. And it would made our job a lot easier. Obviously, if he's carrying more stuff, I have to carry less. So nobody else is mad at this dude for doing more work. But one time we're going, And out of nowhere, Nathan is like, oh, you're not lifting enough, bro. With arms that big, you shouldn't need help doing this at all. You should be able to do this by yourself. You should be able to lift 3 of them. And everybody's really confused at that because, like, he's literally just helping, you know, and Gerald's had enough of it. So he comes back and he's like, dude, you literally run away from work. You can barely carry 1 box. How about you shut up about my carrying boxes until you help? And then Nathan has the nerve to say this, dude. Well, you know, I could carry 10 boxes at once. It's against the Power Ranger code for me to use my powers at work, you know. Oh, yeah, okay, man. So you get super strength, but you just can't use it. Like, why even talk crap to a dude who's doing more work and helping a lot for no reason? Especially if you're just gonna talk crap and then be like, well, I would back it up, but I can't. I'm a Power Ranger. You know, why get mad at a strong guy and claim you're stronger if you're just not? It's not like there was any provocation. There was no beef. He just really wanted to let everybody know he had super strength again. He hadn't told anyone for 5 minutes. It was like a vegan that hadn't told anyone to stop eating meat in 43 seconds. For someone who was supposed to be a superhero, he had no problem just telling everybody about it. Like, I'm sure the Power Rangers had to pull him aside and be like, dude, you're supposed to be an inconspicuous superhero. You can't be running around telling everyone at your job that you are one. That kind of defeats the whole, like, under the radar thing, you know? We're trying to keep it low key. It's an exclusive club. But I think the wildest moment that I have ever seen him was involving the time that he used his Power Rangers at work in front of us to fight a customer, you know? Apparently, the I can't use my power thing goes out the window when you're just pissed at somebody. One day, though, I'm helping out in the dairy section, and we're like behind the fridge where you grab the milk. And when you're in this spot, people can see you and hear you if they're really trying. And like the general rule of thumb is to shut up when you're in this area, because the last thing you want is someone to hear you talking while they're grabbing the milk and like go tell that you mentioned your manager sucks or something like that. But, you know, that's just the rule, is be quiet. But apparently, you know, on this particular day, Nathan hadn't been bragging in a while, hadn't been in a minute, because he was acting like he was making up for lost time, letting everybody know how awesome his Power Ranger time was. Even when we were in the fridge, he's just talking about how he was in a fight with a supervillain and doing the play-by-play dude. Like, I thought Joe Rogan was in my ear, and then I threw an elbow, and then I used my shield to double block the return fire, and then I punched him. And he's just talking really loud, and like some customer, probably like 23, is out there, and he overhears him talking about some Power Ranger villain or whatever, and he says something like, man, I miss the Power Rangers. It sucks that they don't make them that good anymore, you know, like talking about how the quality of the show had fallen off, trying to be nice, if anything. Obviously, in the context of this conversation, it's not insulting. It's not like he came out the gate and said, you're not a Power Ranger, you're an angry old man. But it didn't matter what he said or what it was. I think Nathan was just like looking down to throw down with anyone. So he's like, what did you just say? And the guy is obviously a little bit confused with milk in his hand, and he just like repeats that he misses the Power Rangers. And Nathan starts yelling that like the Power Rangers are the unsung heroes of this town, and anyone who has the nerve to disrespect the Power Rangers is gonna get beat up, and if he has a problem, he's more than happy to walk out of this fridge and teach him a lesson to respect them. And like, if I were the guy on the other side, I probably would have chalked it up to just some dude working here being a nut job. But the guy on the other side's not the type to back down, so he's like, who are you talking to? Yeah, come out here and teach me a lesson. And so I watched Nathan take off his gloves. It was really cold in there, so we had gloves on. He takes off his gloves, and he just kind of like power walks out of the fridge and starts going out there. And as much as I would love to say that I stayed behind and, you know, didn't want to go watch, that's a lie. I was very excited to see what was going to happen. So me and everybody else goes out, and we go and start to watch. And like, what do you expect me to do? You know, I'm just a kid. There's a guy telling me that he can beat up everybody, claims he's a Power Ranger, he's about to fight. You want me not to watch it? Come on, you would too. Anyways, we get out there, though, and this younger dude that we couldn't really see from the other side of the fridge is a lot larger than I would have expected. He's probably got like 5 or 6 inches on Nathan height-wise, and he's just in way better condition. This guy looks like he just drank raw eggs for breakfast. Alright guys, I'm gonna interrupt the video for just 1 second. On screen now is actually an Xbox gift card. For those of you that don't know, I give away a gift card in every single video I post here on this channel as a way to just say thank you to you guys for subscribing and turning on those notifications. So, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, turn on those notifications. You got nothing to lose, and yeah, I appreciate everybody that already does. Big thank you. I'm gonna shut up and get back to the video now. Appreciate it. Anyways, Nathan, though, almost fearlessly just walks up to this tall guy and is like, "Are you the dude that's disrespecting Power Rangers?" And the guy is like, "Yeah, and before you can finish his sentence, Nathan just like points his head down and just spears into him and goes to tackle him. And he actually gets him to the ground. I just think like the surprise of it catches him off guard. And at that point, everybody else in the dairy section is staring. They're like, "Oh my God, stop. Oh my God." You know, all the moms freaking out. We're not really saying anything. We're just kind of like, oh, watching this happen. And obviously, he kind of had gotten him off guard, but the guy who got tackled wasn't having any of this. So he gets up and he starts kind of like holding Nathan in a headlock by his hip. And he opens the fridge and he just takes Nathan, one hand on the back of his shirt out of the headlock and like one hand on his belt, and just shoves him into the fridge and starts like pushing him head first into the milk so that the gallons are falling back into the milk fridge. And he keeps pushing him until he's half out of the fridge, like to the point where his butt is hanging out of the fridge and the rest of him is in it. And at that point, our managers start to show up because, you know, it doesn't take an insane amount of time to get across the store, especially if you're in a hurry with, like, how much screaming is going on and the commotion that's happening. I'm surprised they didn't get there faster. Anyways, they come around the corner to me and the other two guys who are in the back just watching this go down. And another one of the workers with his butt out of the fridge with an angry man, like, trying to still shove him in further. So in that moment, everybody just is kind of like frozen, and the only thing that gets us out of that is we hear a scream that sounds like a wounded buffalo, and Nathan pulls himself somehow out of this fridge and, like, in a fit of strength, just starts hitting this dude in the chest and is like, "By the power of Zordon," which is the Power Ranger, like, hero dude. And he keeps hitting him in the chest. And, you know, I think in Nathan's head, he was like, this is my ultimate anime arc moment. I'm going to get powers. This punch is going to do, 3,000 damage. It's a max level attack. But instead of it actually doing anything, the guy, like, wasn't even fazed by it, dude. You might as well have just been hitting him in the chest with Nerf darts. It was like nothing was happening. So he does his little outburst, and the managers come in to separate him before it gets worse. They tell us to go to the back of the fridge, so we do, and, like, we're standing back there just kind of talking about it, laughing. We can't believe what just happened. And after, about 30 minutes, Nathan comes and starts emptying out his locker, and, like, we walk up to him and we're say sorry about losing your job. Obviously they don't really have a choice. If you're trying to fight a guy trying to buy milk, it's not good for business. You can't really stay. But, like, instead of being upset about it or regretting it at all, he just looks at us and he's like, "Nah, don't feel bad for me at all, dude. I would do it again. I'd beat him up again for disrespecting the Power Rangers. They're just lucky that they broke us up before I could really put the beating on them, Somehow in his mind, he had won the fight. Like, somehow, when he ended up inside of the milk fridge with his butt hanging out, that was a win for him. I don't know how you could consider that a victory. These conditions don't really make sense to me to be a victory, but, I guess when you take an L that large, you kind of got to cope somehow. Otherwise, you just have to accept 8 soccer moms watched you become a gallon of milk. I'm sure that's not very fun to admit, so I guess cope, do what you got to do. I think my favorite part about all of this is the fact that he just never admitted to not being a Power Ranger. Like, he just left and is probably still rolling with that. And I also love that, like, somewhere out there is this random guy that has this story now. He's not involved in this guy's Power Ranger life, our dairy gang, nothing. He has no clue what was going on that day. All he knows is that he was like, "Yeah, man, one time I was standing there picking between whole and 2% milk, and I made a comment about the Power Rangers. Next thing I know, this worker comes out and starts attacking me." Like, if Nathan and me did a 23andMe test, it would just be 90% delusional and angry. I don't know what it was about working in a grocery store, but it honestly collected some of the craziest people that I had ever met. But I think that's going to do it for the video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button and comment down below. If you don't know what to comment, just go ahead and comment Power Ranger down below. It helps the video do better, and I'd really appreciate it. Other than that, subscribe, turn on those notifications. If you really want to help out the channel, you could go to the description and click on the link to my other channel, Scrub Shorts. It's the shorts channel that I made. And along with that is a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast. And if you look on screen, you'll see the coolest merch to ever exist in the history of the world, which is also in the description, and you should definitely buy it. Other than that, be sure to use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout if you're getting yourself some of the best energy drink for gamers. It'll give you a discount, which is very fantastic. Helps you out, helps me out. Everyone is a winner. And yeah, that's everything that I gotta plug. On that note, guys, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. And hopefully I will see you guys all again in another video. I'm gonna go find a random 90s TV show to become insanely obsessed with, get a job at a grocery store, and then convince kids that I actually am a member of the Blues Clues or the Power Rangers. And I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.